Hello everyone, and welcome to Newtype Netplay. My name is Rosenbran, and this is a new series on my channel dedicated to online match footage of me playing Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme Versus Maxiboost ON. Gundam Versus as a series has had a very long history over the years. It originally came out for like Dreamcast and PS2 and stuff like that, and those early entries I believe did come out over here in the West. I never really got the chance to play them, and admittedly back then I wasn't so much into Gundam, but for a long stretch of time, these games never really left Japan, which is really unfortunate. But a few years ago, some of you may remember Gundam Versus came out, and that was a more accessible entry in the series that was kind of meant to appeal to a Western audience that wasn't as familiar with it. And that game kind of received, I think overall the general reputation that game had in the Gundam Versus like franchise community was fairly negative. But it must have sold well, because thankfully we got we're getting a localization for Gundam Extreme Versus Maxiboost ON here, which isn't necessarily a guaranteed thing. But thankfully, I think Gundam games in general have been doing well enough over here that these are starting to come over more reliably, and thank God, honestly. Because this game in particular is just so much fun. And ooh, look at that backdash into the beam rifle shot to win the round there. That was pretty cool of me, not gonna lie. I was looking at this match footage that was recorded all the way back when this game had the private beta in April, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many mistakes I'm making, and I'm doing so many things that I wouldn't do anymore. But good job past me on that game-winning shot there. That was a really good backdash into the shot. But yeah, I guess I should explain what this game is, but I just wanted to, kind of do that recap in the beginning to explain that the Gundam Versus series is fairly beloved in many circles, and actually I believe that Maxiboost ON in particular, don't quote me on this, but I saw some people saying that for a good stretch of time, this was the most popular game in Japanese arcades. Now, frankly, I'm some dude living in Wisconsin. I cannot pretend to be at all familiar with the Japanese arcade scene, but I do know that these games in general are very popular in Japan, and there's a very dedicated community over there, and a growing community over here, especially now that this game is, kind of gaining traction, especially in like the fighting game community and stuff like that. These games are very fighting game community adjacent. I know that they're very common side tournaments at fighting game tournaments and stuff like that. And yeah, part of that is just because that there's a lot of depth here. A lot of people see like competitive arena fighters like this and might think it's something like Jump Force or some of those like Dragon Ball Z or My Hero Academia games that are like really shallow and clunky and often not balanced at all for competitive play. This game ain't like that. There is so much depth here, and it's been such a joy learning how to play this game. There are so many different mobility options. You have 3 different types of bursts that you can do. I'm using the Extend burst here because I'm a new player, and I wanted to capitalize off of what that does. I'll explain more of the mechanics as we go through this series, because there's a lot to get into. But the basic thing that you need to know is that it's a 2 versus 2 arena fighter with a lot of mobility options, a lot of interesting, strategies for zoning and melee, and just a lot of teamwork that needs to be done in order to succeed and play consistently well. Right here, you are about to watch the match where I found my main for this game, and it's the Mobile Suit Gundam. It's not the Mobile Suit Gundam, it's just the Gundam Crossbone X2 Custom. I keep wanting to say Kai because that's what it's usually referred to as, but they said custom for this game for whatever reason. Piloted by none other than Zabine Shiro, who, big fan of. I really love Gundam F91. I know a lot of people don't care for that movie particularly, but I have a soft spot for it, even though it's kind of messy story-wise. I just think it looks beautiful, and it's the most aesthetically pleasing entry in the Gundam series for me personally. And I have a soft spot for the Crossbone manga as well, though I know a lot of people really love that, and I'm part of the crew that thinks it should be animated one day. Who knows if we'll ever get it, but it's perfectly fine just left as a manga. It's a pretty fun, cute story, and it's an excellent follow-up to F91 for those of you who are maybe a little unsatisfied with the story of F91 and thought that they could have done more with it. Obviously, it was planned to be a TV series and then got condensed down into a 2-hour movie, so story suffered a little bit as a result, understandably. See, this is why I'm so happy I can do this series. I get to not only talk about this wonderful, wonderful video game I've been having so much fun with, but also I get to talk all my bullshit and share my Gundam opinions, which God knows I need an outlet for that outside of Twitter, so... But yeah, this match right here that you just saw, I concluded with an amazing beam shot. This was the moment where I'm like, okay, I fuck with this suit. This is going to be my main. I just had so much fun, and I still have so much fun. Every time I play the Crossbone Gundam X2 Custom, I just feel a sense of joy. I am going to try to mix it up, and I am still in the process of trying out a lot of different suits just because it's fun. But expect a lot of Crossbone X2 footage or matches in this series. It'll keep coming back up because this is definitely my main mech for sure in this game. But yeah, as I was saying, this game is a 2-on-2 arena fighter. Now, what makes it unique, or at least a pretty unique thing, is the unit cost system. So every mobile suit in this game has a cost associated with it. The cheapest cost is 1,500, and that increments by 500 up to 3,000, being the highest cost suits. Now, 3,000 cost suits have more health and generally have, more powerful attacks, or in general have advantages over lower cost suits, but the trade-off is that when they get destroyed, they take out more health from the shared health bar. You can see that in the upper left there. Each of those ticks represents 1,000 points, so when a 3,000 cost unit dies, that's half of the team's life bar just completely gone. So if you have a team with 3,000 units, you both get to die once, and then you're just completely lost, whereas if you both have 1,500 cost suits, you can both die twice, and it just gives you a little bit more longevity. But the trade-off for 1,500 cost suits is that they have a little bit weaker attacks, or sometimes are a bit more gimmicky, maybe have some more awkward mobility that you need to get used to. And then you kind of have the all-arounders kind of more in the 2,000 to 2,500 range that kind of fall in between the two. So you really have to think about team composition in this game. You have to think about who should be playing more of an aggressive role and who should be playing more of a support role, though admittedly at kind of a low level like this, you're going to see a lot of matches where we both just kind of split off, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go after this guy, you go after this guy, but to my knowledge, at least from what I understand at the competitive level, it's a little bit more complex formation-wise, and this game is just played a kind of different way when you really start to know what you're doing, and there's someone who's playing more of a frontline role and someone who's playing more of a support role. But it often just feels like, there's just two separate battles going on, and eventually someone wins one of them and then goes to help out their partner, and you both gang up on a guy until the other guy spawns in. But yeah, I'm playing this match with my pal John D'Arc, also known as Johnson, who you may, for those of you who have seen other videos of mine, you may recognize Johnson. We did the Yick Picks podcast together, and also we did two pretty good Let's Plays for Zone of the Enders and Zone of the Enders Second Runner Mars. So if you want more mech content, go check those out, I guess. In my opinion, some of the most underrated work I've done on this channel. I wish both those Let's Plays got a little bit more love, because I think Johnson and I had a lot of fun and did some great work on those Let's Plays. But yeah, Johnson is my mecha partner in crime, and we've been having so much fun playing this game together. Later on, when the beta went public, more of my friends jumped in addition to me and Johnson, it's just, our whole group of friends really, well, not our whole group, but a lot of our group of friends really jumped in and started enjoying MBON too. So that's what Maxiboost ON is called in the community of people in the know, MBON. But I'm gonna try saying that and not say it in a way where I sound like a douche, where I keep going MBON. I got to make it sound more casual and less like I'm being a tryharder trying to fit in. But yeah, you may notice that we got quite a few matches in between Johnson and I and this team made up of Mystic Armada, and I think the other person's name was King of Heroes or something like that. That's just a result of how the lobby system works in this game. You'll find yourself playing stretches of matches back-to-back with the same team, unless the host kind of fiddles around with the settings, but most of the time people don't really do that, so hey, it's no problem, and it can be fun playing against the same people and kind of trying to figure out their strategies and adapt, and at the same time they try to adapt to you, and it can be a lot of fun. So yeah, Johnson and I were both kind of experimenting around during these early matches here and just kind of finding a groove. I think Johnson was playing around with what he wanted to do in terms of suits he liked and stuff like that, whereas I kind of was like, I think I'm going to stick with the X2 Kai for a bit. you may notice in the bottom right there's a boost gauge that is being drained rapidly, and that was my super, which was very cool. I'm so happy I landed that. Supers are risky in this game, but I'll talk about that more at another time, because I want to explain the kind of the bread and butter mechanic that you should really know about if you want to stand a chance in this game, and that's the boost gauge that you're seeing in the kind of to the center right there. Now, when you dash like I'm doing right here, that boost gauge is going to go down a lot. You can dash like 6 to 7 times or so. It kind of depends on the suit, to my knowledge. And if that gauge empties completely, you get overheated, and for like a second or so, yeah, you're basically out of mobility options, and it takes a bit before you can really do anything again. So you're kind of a sitting duck if you let yourself overheat. Sometimes it's worth it if you know you could like get a kill or you want to take a risk or something like that. But most of the time, what you want to do at a higher level is use as much as your boost gauge as possible without emptying it out completely, because then when you land, or after your overheat is done for like the second or so it lasts, the gauge will just fill back up completely. So managing that boost gauge is a very important part of play, and to be honest, I could still be a little bit better at it. There are times where I find myself ignoring it more than I should be. You kind of start to get a sense of when to hold off on boosting, though, I will say. It just starts to become a little easier to feel out as you continue playing. But yeah, you don't want to leave yourself overheated and vulnerable. Though even in general, even if you don't overheat, when you're landing after being in the air for a while, or when you're recovering from a boost, you still kind of leave yourself in a you're vulnerable to attacks. And a large part of this game to get really to attack confidently is finding moments where the enemy is landing or kind of recovering from using a bunch of boost or something like that, so you can get some hits in and they can't evade you as easily. So right here, I switched from the X2 Kaido a bit to play the Nightingale, which is probably my second favorite mobile suit to play, which I'm very happy about, actually, because the reason I picked the Nightingale to begin with is because the Nightingale is actually my favorite mecha design of all time. It's my favorite mobile suit in the entirety of the Gundam franchise. I actually have the RE 1/100th scale Nightingale literally right behind me on my dresser, proudly displayed. I just fucking love the look of this thing. It's so chunky looking and monstrous and intimidating, and it's beautiful. I love it so much. The Suzabi is cool too, but it will never have the same place in my heart as this big beefy boy does. So the Suzabi is a 3,000 cost suit. The X2 that I was playing earlier was a 2,000 cost suit. And this, I almost said Suzabi. The Nightingale is a very zoning-heavy character where you're really banking on a lot of projectile usage. You have funnels that you get to use, which I'm sure I'm about to activate. Yeah. So then when you have your funnels deployed and you start shooting, you can see those little blue beams that fire and track after the enemy and kind of surround them, and just they're very good tools for annoying the enemy. So even though that this suit is mostly like a zoning thing, it does still have a really huge fuck-off sword that it can swipe and deal some pretty heavy melee damage, though it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it has a pretty good range on it. You see me win there by using my Beam Fence Super, as I like to affectionately call it. But yeah, supers are risky in this game because you kind of have to commit to them, and if someone dodges your super or they burst out of your super, you're kind of fucked, and you leave yourself a sitting duck until the animation ends, so that can be very scary. But the Nightingale super is very, very good compared to a lot of other units from my experience, because it just has such massive range that you can use it from like across the map and just hope that it hits, and a lot of the times it actually will hit. So right here, I tried out the Sinanju, because I was like, oh hey, I bet the Sinanju would be really fun to play, because Full Frontal has a very unique fighting style in the anime. And it's actually kind of a weird suit to use. You can see that he spawns in asteroids to jump off of, and he actually has a move that you can use where he'll kick an asteroid towards the enemy, which is really funny. I love it a lot. But yeah, the Sinanju is cool. It didn't really... Well, I don't know if I should say it didn't appeal to me after I played a few matches with it, but it was definitely a suit that I kind of decided I would hold off on, because what I found was it was maybe a little too advanced or a little too tricky for me to use just now. I should actually try it out again recently, or in nowadays, because I feel like I'd be able to have a little bit more control and a better grasp on how I should be playing it compared to all the way back here at the end of April when I recorded these. This match that you're about to see is, I feel like really was a big moment for me, realizing that I can't just rush in all the time on enemies, and me being a little bit more careful and calculating with how I play, which you'll see what I mean as the match goes on here. Playing against a Thunderbolt and a Excelia. Both of these players were pretty good. I remember we fought a lot of matches with these guys in the lobbies, and I believe that most of the time they actually won. This is one of the rare matches where Johnson and I actually were able to beat them. You saw the asteroid there, but when the enemy is knocked down, and even after they wake up a bit after they're knocked down, you can see that the targeting reticle color changes to that yellow with the X through it. That basically means that they have invulnerability frames and you can't damage them. But that can be tricky too, because that lasts after a while after they pop back up. So they can actually use that as an opportunity to go in for an attack that you can't really do much about other than try to dodge, because, see, like right there, he was coming at me and I couldn't do anything other than get the fuck away because he was invulnerable for a bit. So I had to be really careful. Went in for the super here, which you can see I managed to kill that enemy, and then his friend came in and just demolished me. And now I spawn in Overcost, which I don't remember if I explained this, but basically, if you spawn in and you don't have, you're low on points in your life bar, like if your suit cost is more than what the life bar has left in it, you spawn in cost over, which basically means that you spawn in at less health than you normally would. And that's important because you want to exploit that, because basically if the enemy played a little more smart and they decided to gang up on me, this match would have been over way fast, but they decided to toy around there with Johnson for a bit, who I was trying to support, and we were trying to make sure that he was taking the brunt of damage there, but then that ended up not working as much as in our favor, and he ended up going really low on health too, and now I kind of had to switch roles and be like, okay, I'll take front. And that full armor Gundam almost took me out there, but I managed to notice the boost gauge management I did there. I avoided overheating myself, and then I managed to go into a pot shot that took out the enemy. And yeah, just very careful and calculating play. I'm sure that Johnson was guiding me through that process. Johnson's a really good player. Yeah, I'm sure he'd fight me on that, but I'd say of our group of friends, Johnson is definitely the most accomplished MBON player. So yeah, that was just a really proud moment for me. Now, speaking of not so proud moments, something I've been doing as a guilty pleasure in this game is playing as the Acguy, who's a 1500 cost unit who is a little bit gimmicky. I know that in the hands of capable players, he is a very powerful character. I used to call him a joke character, but then I had another player kind of sit me down and be like, Acguy is not a joke character just because you're bad at him. Like, Acguy can actually do some serious damage. You just really need to learn the ins and outs of playing low-cost units, and specifically playing Acguy. So I'm going to shut the fuck up and not call Acguy a joke, even though he is adorable looking and very silly, and I love how he waddles around. Look at that silly Naruto run he does when he boosts. Look at that. Yeah, you can see it for a split second there. But yeah, you may notice that his regular shot is not a beam like a lot of other units. It's this machine gun spray, which can be kind of tricky to use. And most of his special abilities, he has a torpedo thing like that you can see him use. Look at that. I Naruto runned underneath the double X's satellite cannon. That was cool shit. And then immediately got shot right after, so it wasn't that cool to begin with. But yeah, like, Accuy's main thing is that he spawns in other amphibious mobile suits to assist him, which is very funny, but can be very obnoxious to deal with in the hands of a capable player. So I'm trying my best to learn Acguy. I still, when I play Acguy, I lose most of my matches, but I am committed to making it work. I'm gonna try doing my best at learning how to properly play Acguy, because it's a lot of fun. I need to look up a lot more Japanese footage, because there's a lot of really fun, I don't know, there's just a lot of footage from Japanese arcades of people playing this game and doing so a lot better than you know, I'm playing, and there you go, you saw that I did not even get one single kill that round. I believe that was the very first Acguy match I played. I wanted to throw it in. And right here, we're playing another Acguy match here. So yeah, Acguy is definitely a bizarre character. I tried playing him as a zoner, I think a lot more than I should have. Just doing some research, there's the I believe it's called the GGEZ wiki, which has in-depth suit guides for, I believe, most of the suits in this game at this point. I believe that references something, and in fact, I'm going to link to that down below in the description because it's a very useful resource, and I believe that if you play this game and you want to take it a bit seriously, you should definitely look at those guides because they're very good resources and they kind of tell you what you should be doing. Honestly, it's a resource I should be looking at a lot more, in addition to looking up Japanese match footage and stuff. I believe it had a blurb in there about how Acguy is actually a character you should really be playing at medium to close range, even though that a lot of his toolkit is very, you know, assist heavy in terms of like assists that shoot out stuff or assists that kind of chase after the enemy. So yeah, but you can see me using my super here, which is very ridiculous, where you just summon 3 other Acguys to roll around the map and hopefully collide into things. There is friendly fire in this game, so it can be a little tricky to use. I always warn my partner before summoning the Acguys because they can hit your friend, which I think, yeah, that happened there. But it worked out in our favor because the Acguy that rolled around and hit Johnson also ended up killing the enemy. And I love the Acguy camera zoom in when the Acguy gets the round-winning kill, because it's always looking off to the side and looking ridiculously shady in the funniest way possible. Got one last match here to close out the night here. This video ended up being a little longer than I think most videos in the series will be. I think most of them are going to hover around 20 minutes. This is going to be, I think, closer to 23 or so. You know, I'll go a little over, a little under, depending on how it feels. I don't want to force anything. Not really making that 20 minutes a promise or anything like that. So, yeah, you could see right here that both the enemies are using very melee-heavy suits here, the Death Scythe Hell and the Barbados, is it? Yeah, Barbados Lupus. Barbados Lupus is also a very fun suit to use. I've been trying to learn that more recently. You'll see match footage of that quite a few episodes from now, but it'll come, I promise. But yeah, when you have a team that's playing 2 very mobility-oriented suits, that can be a very scary thing if you let them get in close, but I managed to keep my head cool and make them chase after me and not try to go in as much as I probably should have. Summoning the Acguy friends to roll around and have fun. Trying to cut out Johnson from the enemy combo. That's another thing that's important in this game, is that when your friend is getting hit by another person's melee combo, you can cut them out by basically attacking the enemy while they're trying to execute their combo and save your friend and also damage the enemy in the process. So it's an important part to the defense in this game, is actually attacking the enemy when they're attacking your friend, to make sure that they can't get out their full combo. So yeah, through a little bit of careful movement and range play, Johnson and I managed to get the win there, even though it looked like that round was starting pretty bad for us. But yeah, that's going to be it for the first episode of Newtype Netplay. I hope you look forward to more episodes. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.